Hello, everybody. This is Sophia Mona Lisa of the Golden Race Center and the Rose Wheel Mystery School. And I just want to welcome you back to our third episode of Divine Feminine Leadership for the Awakening Woman. Now, when I started this series, my intention was to be giving you these episodes every other month. And it's definitely been a few months since the last episode, which I'll link to at the end. And that's, of course, for many reasons. The first reason is that those of us that are gathered here today have had various things come up in our personal lives, mostly because we're all consciously engaging the Venus Leo goddess synodic cycle, and we have been and we are in the Inanna underworld phase of that journey, and of course it brings up a lot of stuff. So I'm delighted that we're finally able to come together today to bring you this third episode. So this episode is going to be a conversation on spiritual practice, and in Sanskrit the word for spiritual practice is sadhana. And today, this conversation is going to feature Wen Song, who you'll see on her Zoom screen is Maureen. Karuna Devi, you'll see her name on her Zoom screen is Kimmberly, and Gina Champagne. And all three of these gorgeous goddesses are a part of the Galactic New Earth tribe, working together with me in the Galactic New Earth project. And we are all, as I said, with that project, consciously engaged with the Venus synodic cycle. Synodic cycle is just an astro word for Venus's dance with the sun. So before I let these incredible divine feminine leaders introduce themselves to you and speak a little bit about their sacred work that goes beyond our work together as the Galactic New Earth tribe in the Galactic New Earth project, I just do want to make a mention here that Wen Song, Karuna Devi, and I are all three Priestess sisters. And Wen Song and Karuna Devi are the priestess names for Maureen and Kimmberly. Now, the lineage, the priestess lineage that we are a part of goes back to Mary Magdalene, to Isis, and to Inanna. This is a very ancient, almost 7,000 year lineage of priestesses that we are a part of, that was rebirthed on our planet by Nicole Christine. And if you'd like to learn more about Nicole Christine, who rebirthed this lineage, she's written this incredible book called Under Her Wings, The Making of a Magdalene. It's a phenomenal book. I myself have read it several times. And although Nicole has transitioned, she did set up a website called magdalenmysteries.com, and that website is still being maintained by two of our other priestess sisters, Judy Keating and Bonnie Solomon. So if you want to know more about this lineage that we're a part of, again, you can read Nicole's book, or you can go to this website to get more information. Of course, you can always reach out to any of the three of us as well with any questions about this lineage. So now I'm going to go ahead and move over to the group and allow each one of them to introduce them to you, introduce themselves to you before we start the conversation on spiritual practice. So here we go. There we go. I couldn't find the right buttons. So which one of you gorgeous goddesses would like to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
So my name is Kimmberly Wotipka. Actually, Karuna Devi was a spiritual name given to me almost 15 years ago, when I became a Kriyaban through Self-Realization Fellowship. But then when I completed my High Priestess, my priestess name is actually Divine Creation High Priestess. And what I appreciate about that, and about Nicole's work, is actually that what was shared with me was that she always wanted it to be this living, breathing thing. Like, she never wanted to say ABC 1, 2, 3, and then this is what you do, and then this is what you do. She wanted each one of us to take it and make it our own, from our standpoint of what our mission is out in the world. And so I just wanted to share that about Nicole, because I find it really important at a time when most people are claiming trademark with every, 2-word phrase that they want to use in their business. And not to say that there's not a place for that at certain times, but I just love that about Nicole.
Yes.
It was meant to be shared, and in a way that, like, whoever connected with me would be seeking what I have to share on top of, what I was initiated into. So, but yeah, so that's all I wanted to share.
And what about a little bit of your sacred work related to In Her Wholeness?
Yeah, at In Her Wholeness, mainly I have Elemental Priestess, which is first level Priestess initiation, and then second year is High Priestess. Also, I do a lot of the elemental work, which fits really nicely with the priestess work. We are made of the elements. Everything you see is made of the elements. And so learning how to connect with those, especially for people that aren't interested in doing a priestess program, the elemental work can be super helpful for them in just connecting with their surroundings. Because we're so, I don't know, looking at screens all day, and I think it's hard a lot of times for people not only to get grounded, but to really manifest the things that they want to have in their life. And working with the elements in a very specific and spiritual way is what awakens that.
Yes.
So that's my main 2 paths. Thank you for asking.
Yes, thank you for sharing. And I love that because, of course, we incorporate the elements in the work that we're doing with the Venus Synodic Cycle through the Galactic New Earth Project. So yeah, the elemental forces of creation are really fundamental for all of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And who would like to introduce themselves next?
I will. I'll go. Okay, go ahead, Maureen.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Winsong. You go.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Maureen. My High Priestess name is Winsong. And my priestess name, the first level, is Sister of the Spiral Heart. And my work, it's been a very long road. And it first began with Shirley MacLaine. She came out with her book Out on a Limb when she began studying the different ideas that were not really thought of in Western philosophies and religion and all of the things that were available to us in the Western civilized world. And she was able to travel all over the world and learn from people. And so she had a very wonderful foundation for sharing what she had learned in her books and in her radio show. And so that's where it began for me, and it went on from there. And I'm very grateful to her for having the courage to come out with things before people thought of it as a very normal thing to study. She was called a kook and all kinds of names, but she did it anyway, hence the name Out on a Limb. And I'm very grateful to her. And so my work has ended up, I'm now studying alchemy, which was the third level of priestess training that I had. Lisa Michaels is my facilitator. She took the third level of priestess training as alchemy, and she taught us the 7 steps and how to spiritually apply for soul growth those 7 steps. That's where it began, and from there I felt strongly that the 7 steps would fit with Venus cycle. And at that time it was Inanna. Her myth was guiding the gates, the stages of the Venus cycle that we were going through, which corresponded, of course, to what was going on in the sky. So that's where I am right now. I am studying alchemy and finding it to be absolutely fascinating and bringing it into the current time. It's an ancient art. Long ago it began. And so it still applies to soul growth in this day, in this age, and even supersedes that. So that is what I'm doing, and I'm finding the magic. Magic is in alchemy. It is a study of nature, which is what I began with Lisa Michael in the lineage of Nicole Christine. And it's interesting to me that nature is the basis of alchemy. There was this alchemist long ago. His name was Albertus Magnus, and he said, nature must serve as the basis and model of science, and art must work according to nature as far as possible. Therefore, the artist must observe nature and operate how she operates. That guides everything. That guides everything in alchemy. And so that's what I'm doing now.
And would you like to speak a little bit how this has just really expanded for you, and how Maria Prophetessa and Hypatia have come in, who were very famous alchemists of their times, to help bring you wisdom?
Yes, when I began to study alchemy, most of the alchemists that I found were men, but that's not the way it was. This is before the patriarchy came in. That women were very, very much involved in alchemy. Maria Prophetessa is one of the most famous, although her work is relatively unknown, but there are some who wrote of her and what she taught. Her own writing is pretty much gone, except for the axiom, and that was brought forth. And Carl Jung used the axiom of Maria Prophetessa in his work. He studied alchemy for 30 years, and he wrote a lot about her axiom. Unfortunately, I did not write that down, but anyone can look up what her axiom was, and he used that as a basis for his own study. Hypatia was a alchemist in the sense that she studied mathematics. Her father was a mathematician, and he encouraged her to study and learn mathematics. And almost all the philosophers in that time had a knowledge of mathematics. They are one and the same. You can't separate mathematics from alchemy. It's very much part of it. There is a physical and a spiritual part. And she was teaching both, although she's mostly known for her teaching of mathematics. As soon as I realized that she was very influential in the art of alchemy, I decided I was going to get a book on her, and I went to this spiritual bookstore, and they had a book on Hypatia, and I thought I should get that book. I want to learn more about her. And then right next to it was a book on crystals. And I thought, oh yeah, crystals in alchemy. I want to know more about that too. So I only, wanted to buy one book at that time. They were both rather expensive. So I walked away, and I was thinking about which book, and then I would say, nah, I want to know more about Hypatia. That's the book. So I went back to where it was, and there were people standing right in front of it. So I walked away again. I did this 3 times. I came back to the shelf where Hypatia was, the book, and there were people in front of it. Well, the 4th time I came back, the book was gone. So I said, okay. It's the book on crystals. So I bought the book on crystals, and I'm grateful that I did. It's a wonderful book. And then I came home and ordered a book on Hypatia, and began to learn more about her. Her death was it was brutal, because the patriarchy came in and decided that alchemy was heresy. And so all of the alchemists were hunted down, and she was one of them. It affected me deeply, her death. I was surprised because I wasn't really familiar with her, but I felt that death was very, very important to understand. She's not martyred herself. I don't think anyone has martyred her, but it shows how the patriarchy came in. And the patriarchy, I mean the church in its beginning stages in Rome. They were threatened by a woman who had knowledge, and so they wanted all that to be erased from history. And of course, she was in Alexandria, where the great library was. That was why it was a center that alchemists all came to, because they want to study in that library. And so they came in and destroyed the library, or tried to, and killed several of the alchemists, including her. So they couldn't quite erase it all, because there were many people who carried on the tradition of alchemy in secret. And it became a very symbolic art, so that it wasn't exactly called alchemy. They had to be very, very careful to preserve the art without getting killed. So I understood then that she and Maria Prophetessa would guide me to understand what alchemy was. They were both very different very different studies. So it's very interesting.
Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful.
That's nice.
Just beautiful. I mean, it's so amazing when you're talking about it, how the deep passion for alchemy just starts to like exude from you.
Oh, good. It is the most deeply felt study that I've done. It's just amazing, and it is vast. I mean, there are so many levels, and like I said, Carl Jung studied it for the last 30 years of his life.
Yeah.
And it goes on from there.
Right.
There have been women that have attempted to carry it forward. Mary Atwood is one of them. She was in the 1800s. She wrote a book about it, and I'm reading that too. But I think it's one of those mystery schools you can't possibly understand in one lifetime.
Right.
So, so you're never done. You're
Right.
never done.
Right.
And I like that idea.
Yeah. Yeah. As Scorpio goddesses, we do like that, don't we?
Depth. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Gina, tell us about your sacred work outside of the Galactic New Earth Project.
Well, that's a good question. I find what I feel to believe. This is what I sense. Because I've not done any priestess work or anything of the kind. I mean, with the Galactic New Earth Project, because it just felt right for me to do that. Okay. And I enjoy working with the people who are in that group. Because everybody brings a little something to the table, and I benefit from that. I'm not 100% certain what my work actually is. That I'm still kind of feeling that out right now. I do a lot of different things for my daily practices that I have had. Some things that I have done in the past, I now find that I am re-implementing and putting into practice on a daily basis. For me right now, what I can say that I try, that I think that I do for people is to help them find their own way, because everybody's way is different. Mine's not the same as yours, and yours isn't the same as mine. And that's our diversity, is that everybody brings something different to the table. And so I want to say that I'm a way shower. I just don't know how that manifests right now. Because I'm truly a firm believer in, when the student is ready to hear the message, the teacher appears, regardless of who that teacher is. And so right now, for me, what I'm trying to do is to find my own voice and my own self and come back to me as to who I am. So I do some different little practices that I've been doing, particularly over the last couple of weeks, because it doesn't take long to do the work, but I read a lot. And I'm rereading a book that I've read several years ago. And you have the book too, I think, and we've talked about the Seven Sacred Flames. I've been reading that every day. Right now, I'm on Lord Lanto. I'm on the second right now, and I read a little bit every day. I don't read the entire chapter because they're lengthy, and I do have a life, and I have obligations and things that I have to do. So, but and I don't know that this. So I'm still feeling what it is I'm supposed to do to bring people and kind of show them a way, not necessarily my way, just a way. I want to say that I'm here to wake people up. That fits well with my Leo personality. And so I'm trying to find my own voice, my own way of saying things, so that, because like most people, in our human world, I don't want to be attacked for what I say or what I believe. And so I've learned many lifetimes ago, years ago, I don't know what lifetime it was, but it was a long, long time ago, in another life, I learned to couch my language, because Pharaoh was mean and spiteful. And if I said something that ticked him off, I could be killed. And I didn't want to be killed, but I was an oracle for Pharaoh. And so I had to learn to couch my words. I still do that today. I'm trying not to do that as much, but I am trying to come from a perspective of love. And so those are some of the things that I do, and hopefully when I do, because I do Reiki for people, I do Akashic record readings and stuff like that. And I think I do a lot of this work through the animals that I pet sit for, because they do accept, and they are very loving and very giving. And there is no judgment from an animal, none whatsoever. And Lord knows I don't want to be judged any more than anybody else does. So I work at not judging people. So sometimes I hold my tongue and I just, okay, it's their choice, it's their decision. So that's kind of my practice of what I do. And maybe that's a modeling for somebody. Maybe somebody sees that and they understand that and they see that as a way of doing something. Particularly because there's lots of things that we're expected to do these days. And I shouldn't say we're expected to, because that's probably not the right word, but we have societal expectations. And so within the constraints of society, we don't speak 100% honestly of everything that we know. And so I find ways of kind of saying it, but not saying it. If they're ready to hear it, they're going to hear it.
Right.
And I'm trying to let go of that outcome, because you know me, Sophia. I am a Leo, and I'm that person. I am the fixer. I'm the one who says, let's get it done. I am very, very male dominant in that aspect of my being. And I'm learning to do the other side. I'm learning to be more nurturing, because if you want something done, I'll get it done, because I do that. I'm learning now to try to get it done without stepping on a lot of people's toes. And maybe that's a way of modeling for people, because I don't have to give up anything of myself to be kind and still stick to my own belief system. And so that's where I'm at. That's what I do in my spiritual practices. Those are some of the things that I do on a daily basis. Lately I've been thinking about what you were talking about with, y'all with the Priestess program. And I'm going, I don't know. Is that something I'm supposed to do? I don't know. I have no idea. But it's interesting, it's interesting that I already have a name for it when I go into it. Should I take that path? I already know what my name is going to be. Like, you're Sophia Mona Lisa, and she is Karuna Devi, and then we have Windsong over there. I already know what my name is going to be, because I've had part of the name for quite some time. And
So let's do this, Gina, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Let's give voice to your name and claim your name now, because I have this sense that by claiming your name, right, your spiritual name, doesn't have to be a priestess name, by claiming a spiritual name, all of this negotiating that you're doing to discern what is my work here will show up by claiming the power of your name.
Okay. Well, this is the name that it just keeps, it just rings in my head all the time. It is called Sophia Regina.
Sophia Regina. I love it. And
Yeah.
it sounds perfect for you.
Yes.
I've got full body chills right now. Okay.
I do
But-
too.
and I'm like, okay, so Sophia has been around for a while, because Sophia is wisdom. You know, that is the wisdom, that's the divine feminine wisdom. And then Regina is royalty.
Yes.
And so it's like, you know, my name isn't Regina, but it's Gina. And it's like, okay, so Sophia Regina, that's my name. And maybe you're right. Maybe by claiming that name now, then all the little puzzle pieces will start to come into fit where they need to go to
Yep.
show me what way I'm supposed to be going.
Yes.
You know, what's my highest and best good, you know, for me and for the world, because we are here to do something important.
Yes.
And I desire to do something positive and impactful for humanity.
And it's clear that you're ready. You're ready to get going because you're the doer.
I am a doer. Today I took a refrigerator out and got another one and put the other one in. So I just got to wait for it to sit upright for a while. But it's like, okay, and got that all done and still made our meeting today. I was very pleased with that.
Well, we're delighted you could make it, Sophia Regina.
Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And you know, Windsong is talking about all these books, and so I'm going, oh my God, okay, wait, now I got more books to put down.
I wrote them down too.
Well, and not always, you know, okay, what was it? Out on a Limb is one of them, and then I got to go look up the axiom from Maria Prophetessa, and then Hypatia, and I got to think about how Hypatia is spelled. I think it's Hypatia.
That is correct. That is correct.
It's a Y. Okay, so it's because it's a Greek name. Okay. And under her wings, that other one
Yes.
first one.
In fact, I'm going to go back to that slide now.
Okay.
So that you can see it. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
There it is, under her wings.
Yes. And the making of a Magdalene. Yeah, because it's
Magdalene.
I love the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love the artwork on the cover. It's just absolutely beautiful.
And of course, the wings that she's speaking to, which you do see in the image here, are the wings of Isis.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mary Magdalene herself, who was trained in this lineage, was trained in the mystery schools in Egypt, the Isis mystery schools.
Yes. Yeah. She was a I don't know if she was a high priestess, but she was an initiate in the Isis mystery schools. I know that.
Yes, you know, she was a high priestess in the Isis mystery schools, as was Yeshua's mother, Mary, and Yeshua's grandmother, Anna. They were all that was the term, Magdalene. They were all Magdalenes. They were all priestesses in the Isis lineage.
And I don't, I don't know if this is the place or not, but I'll just speak it because it's saying it needs to be out there. How many people know that Mary and Anna were also part of the Essenes?
Right. Right.
You know, that stuff that has been, it's just been buried and buried and buried and buried. But all of this stuff, you can't bury truth forever.
Right.
Truth is going to rise to the surface. It just does.
Yeah.
And you know me and my patience.
Okay. So let's look at this conversation around spiritual practice and how we're going to kind of navigate this discussion. So what I'd like us to do is to speak to each one of these questions. So, of course, the first question is, based on your spiritual education, what is it that you understand the purpose of a spiritual practice? Or for those of us that have similar backgrounds as me, what is the purpose of the sadhana? So we're going to go back to the group. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to speak to what they understand, know, believe the purpose of the practice to be. And then we'll come back and we'll pick up the next question. So let me go back to the group. All right, there we are. So who would like to start first in terms of what you know to be a purpose for having a spiritual practice when you've had some kind of an awakening and now you're stepping onto the spiritual path? What is the purpose of having the spiritual practice? Go ahead, Karuna Devi.
Yeah, for all of us women on the spiritual path, we are what I call the modern holy woman. And modern because we are in the here and now. You know, we can't go back to the Magdalene days as much as we think we would like to at times. However, it's for women from any cultural or spiritual background who really wants to embody and be an example for her spiritual practices, her values, her ethics, her virtues, and a deep connection with the divine, no matter what that looks like in her tradition. You know, somebody can be part of the Roman Catholic Church and be a modern holy woman. And, you know, same thing for any religion or spiritual path. But I think ultimately devoted to living a life of service and compassion and inner realization. Because I think without the inner realization, the outer is sort of lost.
Absolutely. And Karuna Devi, you know, the four of us that are here, we know shorthand what you're referencing when you say inner realization. But for other women that maybe they're new to the spiritual path and aren't familiar with what that concept of inner realization is, can you elaborate on that just to kind of help them know what you're speaking to?
So I can give a direct and personal example. Almost 20 years ago, married, 3 kids, 800 miles from my family, miserable, had been in the church, but never really connected because even at that time, still, it was all hellfire and brimstone. And I always, ever since I was a little girl, remember thinking, what are you talking about? God is love to me. Why are you making him so angry? You know? And I was trying to find the courage to leave this marriage and raise 3 teenage girls on my own. And someone says to me in passing one day, you should read Autobiography of a Yogi. So I'm in a small town in southern Illinois and cross over to Kentucky to even have to, you know, be able to go to a bookstore. And the minute she pulled it out from behind the counter, I cried like a baby, like an absolute baby. And so getting on that path and becoming more aware of what that inner realization was. For me, it was through mainly japa yoga, you know, mantras and meditation and prayers. But So inner realization, I would say, is sort of a self-discovery of really exploring who am I on the inside? Like, what is my nature? What is my potential beyond simply serving everyone around me? You know, it really, for me, brings that inner life and that inner light into the outer and what you're doing. Because for me, I know without that, I was burnt out, stressed out, at my wits' end, trying to manage everything and everybody and what everybody wanted for me. So then to take that time to focus on my inner life is really what brought me a more peaceful and fulfilling life. I hope that answers your question.
It's a beautiful answer, absolutely, because that is what inner realization is for you. And that's a valid perspective in terms of the kaleidoscope of what inner realization is all about.
And I mean, I could make it much more succinct and just say to seek and know that God is within each of us, you know. But I think that's hard to conceptualize in the very beginning, you know, when someone is first starting on a spiritual path. Because that's not exactly what we're taught as far as religion goes.
And that is the realization that they do come to once they start engaging that inner realm and start asking, who am I really? What am I doing here? What have I come for?
Yeah. And, you know, I think one of the, not to detract from what we're talking about in the moment, but one of the best exercises I've ever participated in is for someone to look me in the eye and continually say, who are you? Who are you? You know, and you just keep getting deeper and deeper. And it's hard. That is very hard to come up with answers that are not surface. Well, I'm a mom. No, who are you? You know.
Right. I love that you mentioned that, because there's a story that Peter Mount Shasta tells about when he's in India sitting at the feet of Neem Karoli Baba, and he's been there for, I don't know, weeks or months. And then one day, finally, Neem Karoli Baba says, who are you? And he's thinking, damn, I've been here all this time. You don't know who I am?
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't until later that he understood the meaning of the question.
Wow, that's awesome.
But the personality will jump in, right? The ego itself will jump in and is like, what do you mean you don't know who I am?
Yeah. Great example.
Winsong, would you like to speak to what your understanding of the purpose of having a spiritual practice is?
It's really very simple for me. It's knowledge. From the very beginning, I've always wanted to gain knowledge. And in the Bible, Eve wanted knowledge. She took the apple off the tree of knowledge against God's wishes in the myth, in the story, and invited both she and Adam to take a bite of the apple. She wanted knowledge, and she was punished for it. And that original sin has come down on women ever since. We don't need to seek knowledge. We're here to serve man. It's what we do, right? We get married, we have a child to carry on the man's name. We make sure that he has his needs. Now, I'm a baby boomer, so my idea of what a woman's worth was is very different than future generations. We were taught that the man comes first in all things. And so gaining knowledge was not particularly important for a woman. But I've never been in a situation where I didn't want knowledge. And so I always strived for it, first through my religion, which was Christian Science, and then through lots of other paths. So knowledge became what we call gnosis. And that leads to a whole new study before Christianity. And that is the route I took. And that was my purpose, was to start to learn. And my Christian Science was founded by a woman named Mary Baker Eddy. I think she was a very wise woman. I think a lot of her teachings have been changed, like so many others, in the way that they are practiced. But she always called God Father, Mother, God. And so I had the basic truth that God is both feminine and masculine. And so that was always with me. And she is truly a spiritual ancestor of mine. And I do read some of her early works. Brilliant woman. But it's all about knowledge for me, and now gnosis. And that brings me to my chart. You know, the chart, our birth chart in astrology, is a guiding blueprint almost about how we respond to our world. And my Venus is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the truth seeker. And I feel I've always expressed through that.
Yes, yes. And of course, with Jupiter, the cosmic guru, being the Lord of Sagittarius, it is about absolute knowledge, right? That's why they call it the Sat Guru, right? That is the supreme knowledge of truth.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's me.
Sophia Regina. I love how that rolls off my tongue. Sophia Regina, what do you understand the purpose of spiritual practice to be?
For me, at least at this point in my journey, on my path, is finding who I am. I coming back to myself and all my divinity, all my divineness, and loving who I am and accepting who I am, 100% of who I am. Because you know as well as I do that wasn't always the case. But over the last year or so, last couple, since I met you and this lovely group of people, that's kind of, I'm accepting who I am. As we all know, I am not everybody's cup of tea. And I don't have to be. I just have to be my own cup of tea. And I shouldn't say it have to be, because that's not really the thing, but I desire to just love myself totally and completely, just as Father, Mother, God does. Just as I love my children, regardless of, it doesn't matter what they do. I may not like what they do, but as a parent, I'm not going to not love them. That goes beyond that. But in our society, Love is conditional. If you do what you're supposed to do, then you've earned somebody's love. Well, that's not true. I don't have to earn that. And that's for me, that's what that's the purpose of my spiritual practice, the stuff that I've been doing for myself lately, because I do it for me. I don't do it for anybody else. I do it just solely for me and my own spiritual growth. You know, where it takes me, I have no clue, because so far, as much as I've asked and demanded and decreed, ain't nobody giving me a roadmap, you know, and I know it's all in me, and I'm just not ready to see it yet. And I look forward to that day when I can see down the road what it is. I can see, yes, this is the path for you. You know, and you know, it's just like all those little things, you know. So it's kind of like, that's one of the little things that I've been doing. I did it some years ago, and I picked it up again just recently. It's called the 5 by 55. You write it's like a little mantra, and you write it down every day for 5 days. It's only for 5 days, but you write it down 55 times. So when you're writing something, you don't want to write something that's 2 or 3 lines, because that's a lot of writing. But I do that every single day. And and I got one more day to do this one, is I am love. And that's it. And they're all on that line of, and they always start with I am or I have, one of those two things. But and I find that to be very helpful for me. And so that's something I did that I can pass on to other people, because it's a real simple practice. Not hard. It is time consuming, but it's not. Okay, so I read my little book, the little bitty short one that's about that big. I read that. I read a chapter a day, and I think I'm on my 3rd time reading through it, because I'm on, I don't know what chapter I'm on next number 7 or something. I don't know. But it's like, I just read that, then I do my little I am thingy, and then I read another book. I read something from the 7 Sacred Flames, and then I read something from the Sophia Code. Those are the things, those are part of my practices, and those are routines that I can easily do, because I can do them first thing in the morning, because I'm a morning person. I'm not an evening person like you are, Sophia.
Yeah, me
The other Sophia. You're not a morning person either, Kimmberly. Karuna. Oh, well, I am. I got to get it. I got to get up and get it done.
Oh, I am a morning person.
Oh, you are a morning person.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Okay, that's fine. I get you.
Yeah.
I know Sophia up
Yeah.
there. See, now my Sophia is a PHIA. I got the Greek spelling. And I know she is. She is more of an afternoon. She's a later person than I am. She gets up at later than I do. And
Well, actually, since I've been working, you know, at this new equine center,
oh yeah,
I've been getting up at 5 a.m. so that I can be out there by 7 to start scooping those paddocks. So yeah, my whole
well, and it's so hot. You can't do that in the middle of the day. It's it's too hot these days. But so it's kind of like, okay, so I am that morning person. Now, it's not to say I don't like sleeping late, but I mean, I still want to get everything done in the morning. So, Winsong, are you a morning person or an afternoon person?
I am not a morning person at all.
At all.
My
So
natural
you're good out on the West
schedule,
Coast.
oh boy, do I not want anybody to talk to me in the morning.
Yeah.
No, I am totally a night owl, and I'm trying to change that, but it's very hard because it's my natural schedule.
Well, if it's your natural schedule, why try to change it?
Because everything is geared to morning and afternoon. Classes and work schedules and school, everything is geared to that. And I tried to fit into it, and I had to fit into it, but it was very difficult. Yeah. From my teen years on. No.
Sorry.
Let me go back to the slide so we can look at the second question.
Wait a minute, Sophia, Mona Lisa, what about you? We'd like to hear you too, please.
Yeah.
Your
You're not getting off the hook on this
right
one.
over.
She did, didn't she? She
Yeah.
tried. What's good for you, Windsong, catching that one.
Well, let me just say, and part of the reason why is I just did a whole video for Guru Purnima, where I did talk about spiritual practice and spiritual discipline. And so for those watching, I'll put a link to that video in the description box below. But ultimately for me, and it's probably a little bit of everything that each of you have shared, for me, the purpose of a spiritual practice is self-discovery, which leads to self-realization. And so getting to know the answer to that question, who am I? Which is essentially getting to know that you are a divine being, getting to know the divinity within you, and then starting to have a relationship with the divinity within you, right? Because there's your divine self and the human self. So think about if we're here having this conversation and I'm asking each of you goddesses, these questions, and you all just sit there and stare at me. That's not a conversation, right? That's not a relationship. And so the purpose for me of a spiritual practice is, one, the discovery that you are a divine being, two, knowing yourself as that divine being, and then three, creating that conscious, equal partnership, that relationship with your divine being, so that, this is why I don't like the word meditation. Because many people have this conception about meditation that you're sitting there silently, for however long, and your egoic mind, your egoic self is waiting for something to happen, right? For the fireworks to go off. And it's like spinning your wheels. What is this all about? For me, meditation is a conversation with my divine self. So if you can go into your Christ heart and you can ask a question, just like we started today off camera, what does the divine feminine in me want me to share today? And then you hear, right? You prompt the conversation and then you listen for the answer. But if you're just sitting around in meditation silently, like, okay, hello, you may hear something, right? And people often do, but it's usually in response to some extreme emotional, oh my goddess, what do I do now? And then they hear something, but they're not even aware that they asked their divine self, and they're not even aware when they hear, get up and go back to bed, that is their divine self speaking to them. So for me, the purpose of a spiritual practice, as I said, the self-discovery of your divine self, the knowing yourself as a divine being, and then having finally that ultimate relationship between you and your divine self, which for me, I call the beloved. My divine self is my beloved. And that is going to be ground shaking, especially for women, because patriarchy has conditioned women to believe that you have to look outside of yourself for the beloved. You have to look outside of yourself as love. But when you come to know through self-realization that you are love, that you are an embodiment of love, that you yourself are the beloved, for the divine that is within you, nobody can take that power, that sovereignty away from you. And for me, the purpose of a spiritual practice is to come to that place in your evolutionary expansion. Okay, let's look at this other question now. So now that we've talked about what we believe the purpose of a spiritual practice is, and you've each had your own ideas about, why you do it, what you're looking for. From that perspective that you shared, what is it that you have actually then subsequently experienced because you've been doing your spiritual practice? And so can you tie that experience back to a belief of this is what I'm looking for? Or maybe you've had an experience that transcended what you were even taught that the purpose of a spiritual practice is. So let's start there. Winsong, why don't we start with you and then go to Sophia Regina and then to Karuna Devi.
Okay. I found that because I seek knowledge, I have found that all that has led to inner realization. Yes, I have sought outside myself for answers. I've looked to the same things that other people have, books, channeling, and that sort of readings, outside of just telling us where our energies are presently within our birth chart or our solar return chart. But all of that points back to what's going on inside. How does that relate to where I am now? And I have never not seen that as a very relevant part of my studies. I am looking for knowledge in order to know myself. And that's exactly what has happened. And through alchemy, it is a personal journey through the steps from the dark night of the soul, starting with calcination and moving through higher and higher degrees of understanding self. That's what it is. There is a physical part to it also. But primarily I've looked at the spiritual intent of alchemy. I don't have a laboratory, but there was a lot of alchemy done in laboratories. I think that's pretty much where I've been directed and experienced through things is to gain knowledge and apply that to myself.
And so I love how you said, I don't have a laboratory. A lot of people had laboratories. They had external laboratories.
Mm-hmm.
You have a laboratory. You've chosen the inner laboratory.
I have. That's true. Absolutely, I have. And of course, they are related. The physical alchemy studies are related to the inner, like calcination. That is the heating of they always show the heating of the king's body. That's the symbol for calcination. That in order to let go of what no longer serves the king, it burns. It burns. And so they show symbolically the king is in the midst of a cauldron or some heat producing equipment. but we can do that internally, and that's what we do with calcination. We burn what is no longer relevant to us and is holding us back. But it's all through symbology, so that's why it can be used to further our spiritual growth so easily. Well, not easily, that's probably not the right word, but the path is pretty well mapped out in alchemy, and it goes from there.
And knowing you and your chart the way that I do, one of the many reasons then that alchemy appeals to you is because you've got the roadmap.
Exactly. Yes, I do. And that and everything in my chart, I can use alchemy to heal what needs healing, let go of what needs letting go of, and going forward with a more true sense of self.
So I'm just being inspired right now to ask this question, and it's going to catch you off guard, Winsong. So,
Uh-oh.
yep. So give yourself a moment, and if you want to pass and come back to it, we can do that.
Okay.
But in this spiritual practice, clearly alchemy is a primary spiritual practice for you in terms of what you have experienced, and you've said a clearer sense of self. What in the most recent time has become clear to you about knowing yourself, that you is a new realization that you didn't know about yourself before?
The most important thing that I've learned about myself is my fear of success. Now, this is very different than a lot of people who have a fear of failure. Not me. I made sure that I wasn't successful in almost everything I've done. And I've done that in some very, very odd ways. But it's become clear to me that I sabotaged myself many, many times so that I would not be seen as a success. It's such a strange thing to finally realize about yourself, that you are more than you thought you were, that you have more talent than you thought you did. It's the most revealing thing I could ever have understood about myself. And it didn't happen until I began to study alchemy and what held me back. Fear of success.
Wow.
Isn't that what Marianne Williams said about us? It isn't that we fear we're too little, we fear that we're too much. Something like that.
Something along that, right?
Along those lines.
Yeah,
and,
that's something about we fear our own light.
We fear our own light. We can't stand out in the world. We can't be too much. We're women, right? I mean, this isn't what happens with women, but of course it happens with women. It always has, and that was something I resisted for a very long time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Sophia Regina, you'll have to unmute yourself. What have you experienced from your own spiritual practices?
I am in the process of experiencing, because I've only been doing this I haven't been doing it for overly long. But what I am is I find that I am experiencing that I actually do love myself. That for me, that's huge. As we said a little bit earlier, part of what we hear from people is that it's not how I hear it constantly. It's not how I was raised. Because we've been raised to say we're not worthy. We're never enough. And I am enough. I'm enough for me, and I'm enough for just about everybody else in my life. I believe so. Some people I might be a little bit too much for, but it's okay. I'm good with that. I don't really have a problem being too much for people. I don't. That sounds, I don't know how that sounds, but it's true. I really don't have a problem being too much. If I find that if I see somebody become feeling overwhelmed by who I am, I can tone it down, because I don't want people to feel overwhelmed. And, I mean, because that's an uncomfortable feeling, to feel that tidal wave coming at you. Now, that's just a metaphor, but I mean, in essence, for some of us, that's how people see us. We're just, we overwhelm them. And I'm very comfortable in that. And I'm learning to tone that down when I sense somebody is overwhelmed, because it's not my desire to overwhelm somebody. I don't want to be overwhelmed. I look at it how I want to feel. I want to feel comfortable. I want to hold that space for people. And you can't see me doing that, but I got my little hands together. See here,
Yeah.
they're like that,
Yeah.
holding space, so that people can. I kind of want to meet people where they are. I can't drag people through. I don't need to drag people through. It's their choice. It's part of the free will process. And I'm learning that right now. And I have been experiencing that, of allowing people to go through their own crap, for lack of a better way of saying it. Because we create our own mess. Now, if you need help getting out of your mess, I can help you. If you ask me to help you, I'll help you, because I don't have a problem helping you. And I'm learning to not even offer. I don't offer anything anymore. I just, if they want my advice, if they want my 2 cents, I wait for them to ask for it. And me, the person that I am, that is a huge growth issue. That's big growth for me.
Yes.
You know me. You know me well enough.
Well,
Maureen, and
and to be fair, yes, let's acknowledge it. It is a huge growth for you. And it's not something that was like a personality flaw that you had to like rein in. Women are trained, little girls are trained to give themselves away, and to know what everybody needs before they can even voice it themselves, and to already be there and take care of it. So the fact that you've been able to take your power back from that disempowering, what is the word I'm looking for? Oh Lord.
Belief, maybe?
Excuse me?
Belief?
Well, there is a belief, but it's like a training, like there's another word I'm looking for beyond training, like this, where we are taught that this is the way that we have to be.
oh, it's a conditioning.
Thank you. That's the word that I was looking for, a disempowering conditioning, right? Because in order for you to be liked and to be the good girl, right, you have to fall in line with the conditioning. And so to take your power back and break the binds of the conditioning is huge. And also, I love how you said, that you are at a place now where you are choosing to tone it down, right? That's different from feeling like you have to tone it down because nobody wants that present, right? And so you have learned how to navigate, again, taking that power back when you're comfortable being full on, and when you recognize to be compassionate and merciful, gracious to those around you, to kind of tone it down so that they can feel comfortable and still receive from you. I love that. That is a huge, huge growth experience. And for you to have gotten that from your spiritual practice speaks to, again, back to the first question, the purpose of a spiritual practice. We are mastering ourselves. We are becoming more and more self-mastered.
Yeah, that is absolutely the truth. And that's the whole point. The whole thing is to master all of these little aspects of ourselves, you know. And you know, in all honesty, this group helps me to do that. It provides support for me to do that, because I'm not judged by this group, you know. And I've always been fairly non-judgmental to people. And I can't say I haven't been 100% of the time, but I try to be non-judgmental. You know, I work at that. I can't say that was the same experience I've had. God knows, with my mother, I certainly was judged. No matter what it was never good enough. Nothing was good enough. And I am becoming more comfortable with who I am. I'm knowing who I am. And you're right, I choose to pull back when I know that someone is really uncomfortable with my Sophia Regina-ness.
With the truth of who you are, right?
Yes, absolutely.
With the 10,000 times brighter than the sun brightness of light that you are.
Absolutely. And again, like you said, and it is a choice. I don't buy into the conditioning, and I haven't bought into the conditioning for quite a while. You know,
and the
and I'm
spiritual
now
practice helps you.
Yes, it does.
Come to the place where you can drop the chains, the bondage, the binds
Yes.
of the conditionings. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. For me, that's very true.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karuna Devi, what have you experienced for yourself from your spiritual practice?
Ultimately, I think I would say connection with the divine. Even when I knew that I wanted that more than anything, it has, over the 15 plus years, really become a purpose for me. And something Gina shared a little earlier reminded me of early in my spiritual path. I was divorced, living in this house I wasn't excited about, 3 teenage daughters. You know, I just felt like I didn't know what to do. Like life was just miserable, it felt like. And I remember going to bed one night and I prayed, Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, please write it down for me while I'm sleeping. I don't know what to do. If you will just write it down for me, leave it by my bed. I'll never ask for another thing. I'll never tell anybody that you did that for me. And I go to bed, and then I had this dream, and I knew it was me walking, and all I could see was I still get choked up. It was just, and it was like I heard a voice, all you need is the next step. And literally that was all I could see was my foot going to the next step. And I couldn't see past that until my foot knew where to land the next time. And for all these years, that has been one of the biggest things to bring me inner peace when I don't know what to do. And I feel like I'm at my wit's end, and, you know, so through that connection with the divine, which was for me the biggest thing, inner peace, and then a sense of belonging. I never felt like I belonged growing up within my family, at school, and like I wasn't, you know, looking back, no one was ever ugly to me or in any way. I didn't feel like I belonged. And nobody, you know, in retrospect, no one made me feel that way. For just some reason, I felt that way. And so to have a community of like-minded people, you know, sharing beliefs and values, that has been, I don't know, actually, it's hard for me. I love it, but it's hard for me because I didn't have it. And so I think I'm still, goodness, I didn't, you know, so probably 2/3 of my life, I didn't have that. And so it's different for me. And I don't always know how to respond to it, but I appreciate it, you know. So I'm still working on that one. I want to see if there's, there are things that I feel like I have healed through my spiritual practice. Some have been physical, some mental, some emotional, some spiritual. And I think ultimately that becomes for me about overcoming challenges. Like when we are faced with a physical challenge, it can be hard to focus on anything else, you know? And same thing I would say when you're in this period where you feel like you need spiritual healing or even emotional. So that has been my practice, and what I've received from that. That would be another, I would say, benefit to my practice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, for myself, I love what all of you shared, because again, I can see a little bit of what you all shared within me too. But just leaping off of that last piece that you shared, Karuna Devi, about the healing that you've experienced through your spiritual practice, the way that I relate to that in my own self is coming more and more into a wholeness, because I too always felt that I didn't belong. From the get-go, first of all, I didn't feel like I belonged on this planet. Then it was like, I don't belong in this country. Then it was like, I don't belong in this classroom with these classmates. You know, what am I doing in this family? I think somebody made a mistake. I don't belong in this family. And so what I've come to know through my spiritual practice is that whatever that was about, and it was on some level a disconnect, not feeling connected. I don't belong right here because I didn't feel a connection. And I think that that really was a mirror of all of my inner world desiring to come into deeper connection, deeper wholeness. And that's what I have experienced. To know yourself, okay, as the divine. For so long, that was such an intellectual, and then when you feel it, it's like, whoa, it's like on a level that you can't even discuss. And that's the divine self. And then of course there's the human self. So all the things about you that have been judged and labeled and unwelcomed, and why are you this way? Why can't you be that way? Well, then that kind of a knowing has been like a clarity, like, oh, now I understand why I, as the human, am this way. And it's perfect. And I don't have to make excuses for it, and I don't have to change it. So there are a lot of that I think goes back into this coming more into wholeness, coming into deeper connection with who I am as a human and also who I am as a divine being. And then having realizations about where, what is the next step? Where are you going in this expansion? The most recent thing that has come into my awareness through my spiritual practice is, oh, you are kinder to everyone else, even the animals, than you are to yourself. And so now incorporating, okay, how can I consciously be loving, kind, and generous with myself? It's easy to be that with others. How can I do that? But I would have never even been aware of that had it not been for my spiritual practice. I wouldn't have learned that about myself as a piece that needed to be healed, perhaps, or a piece that was ready to expand more into the light of who I am. My most recent thing beyond that was I went into my Christ heart and I asked, what am I most devoted to at this time? And I'm thinking, of course, the egoic mind kicks in. Oh, you're devoted to, Sophia and her work, or you're devoted to Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and their teaching, and then I heard behind all of that, you are most devoted to the light that you are. And without a spiritual practice, nobody is going to come to know that or any of these things that we're discovering about ourselves.
Yeah, very well said.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
So let's go back to our slide one more time.
Okay.
And now we're down here. Now, Gina or Sophia Regina, now you can start speaking to the spiritual practices that are a part of your daily life. And after you, then we'll have Karuna Devi, and then we'll have Windsong.
Well, it's what I do. It is truly part of my daily practice every day. I read my little, I am the open door, whatever chapter it happens to be. Then I write my little I am statements, 5 by 55, I've got one more to go for this round. And it changes every week. When I finish a 5 by 55, then I sit with it for a little bit, and I think, okay, well, what is it that I'm supposed to be writing out? And so I do that, and then I do then I read. It takes me about an hour and a half to do all that, and I don't have any problem with that. And while I'm doing all that, there is absolutely nothing on. There is no TV, there is no music, absolutely nothing. Total, the house, the air conditioning, you can hear when it kicks on. That's it. That's basically what it costs. That I shouldn't say it's what it costs, but it is. It's what it cost me that time to specifically focus on that.
That's wonderful.
And trying to hear and just listening for what my higher self is telling me. Because there's so many distractions today. I know I'm not the only one that sees it. I mean, my God, there's just so much to do. Okay. Oh, gee. Oh, let's see. What else can we possibly throw at you? Oh, yeah, let's go ahead and require a new refrigerator. So now you got to sit and you got to think about that. Oh, hell, where am I going to get the money to get another refrigerator? Oh, my sister has an extra one and I can have hers. Okay. But I got to find somebody to help me go get it. And everything. And I did. I had somebody that helped me to do that, because we cannot do things alone. I got food at my next door neighbor to the east of me, and I got food at my neighbors across the street, because they all have extra room in their refrigerators and freezers, and everything is there. And then there were things I had to throw out because it had thawed out so much. There was nothing, you don't want to refreeze that, particularly fish. But it's like, yeah. But so I'm being grateful. That's one of the things that I do as well, is I'm very grateful. Yesterday, my little neighbors across the street came over and they cut my grass for me. Not only did he cut my grass, he edged the driveway that's 120 feet long, and he blew off the drive. Well, he didn't blow off I told him, don't blow the driveway, because I don't want it blown I don't want the stuff blown in the grass. I was picking all that up. So I spent all day yesterday working in the yard, and I love working in the yard. And I'm grateful to be able to be outside and pull the weeds. I got strong hands. I'm pulling the weeds, whipping those little suckers out of there, and replanting things. And so I'm very grateful for all of that. That's some of the things that have come from my daily practices, being grateful for. I have great neighbors. And, yesterday was my birthday, so that was my birthday present. I turned 71 yesterday.
Yeah.
Happy
Belated
birthday.
birthday.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's not a big deal. Yes. It really is just another day, but I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm kind of wanting people to know that, hey, it's my fucking birthday, and just doing my stuff and doing my things, spending all day outside. I spent the entire day outside yesterday. Then I went and got a massage.
Good for you.
I did. And Lord, it was good. But it's great. And I was able to get everything done. And then I was able to be here with you guys today, which I just absolutely love. I enjoy these little gatherings that we do.
Great. Yeah.
Even for the Galactic New Earth Project. Yeah.
I was so delightfully surprised when you popped in right before we started, because I was thinking, oh, she probably won't be able to make it, and it would be nice if she could even come in at the end. And then you were right there at the beginning, so that was fantastic.
I was washing dishes. I was washing the globes off the dining room fixture that I had to take out so that we could get the other refrigerator out of the house. And so I was, and I'll have to go back to finish doing that. But yeah, and I said, oh, what time is it? Oh, hell, I better go quick. I got to get on computer. And then I had to find the email. And then, of course, then Firefox or whatever it is, decided it needed to do an update.
Well, you made it. You made it.
I did. And I'm
thank
very
you.
grateful that I did. Thank you
Thank
all
you.
so very much.
Karuna Devi, what spiritual practices are part of your daily life?
Yeah, daily is mantras that I do. And it changes because there's certain dikshas for different ones. So I might be on one for 41 days and I might be on one for 101 days. That would be my main thing that's every day. I pray the rosary also, which I know mantras and rosary, but it works for me. Every full moon and new moon, I have a fire ritual that I do with some yantras. And then different holidays, like Guru Purnima was intense for me. We
It
had
was intense
songs
for
and
me. Yeah.
meditations like every day. And like I had some big breakthroughs for myself, throughout that whole week. So that was really beautiful. And then meditation, not as often as I would like, because sometimes the mantras like take up an hour just themselves. But I do want to get back to a daily somehow meditation schedule. But I'm like Gina, it is silent in here when I'm doing, and if it's where I can, I'll drink my coffee, but like I can't do that and do my mantras,
Right.
but I can read or, some other things like that, or just spend time at my altar having a conversation, while I'm drinking my coffee. Yeah, so that's just some of the things.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, for me, a rosary and a japamala are basically the same thing.
Right.
Definitely.
Winsong, what are some of your spiritual practice that you do each day?
Well, I keep a dream journal. We don't always remember our dreams, but the ones that I do remember upon waking, I write them down, and through that, I can see certain patterns. Dreams are symbolic, and so it's not going to tell you exactly right out in the open what it means, but you can write them down and see over the course of time that there may be some theme that keeps reoccurring. And I had this one theme that continued to show up in dreams, and that was that I had animals in my backyard, and I kept forgetting to feed them.
Oh my goodness.
They were dogs, and one time there was not a dog, it was another animal, like a goat, maybe a goat, and I would think about them out, and I thought, I don't remember the last time I fed those animals. And so I'd go about finding food and taking it out, and I kept thinking, oh, they're probably not even alive. But they were there. And so what I had a dream counselor. I was taking a class with Tammy Brunk, and she had a year-long class called Sky Apprentice. She doesn't do that anymore, but it was all about dreams and astrology. You put them together, and she said, well, if something reoccurs like that, it's always you. It's always about you. She said, so what is it about you that you're not nourishing? So that came out in a pattern in dreaming, and so I do that every day. if I can remember my dream, I write it down. And I also use oracle cards every day. I have mini decks, just like books. I've collected several that I use regularly, and I find that it helps me to focus on something for the day that is generally it's internal.
Mhm.
And the last one that I did was I drew from the Mary Magdalene Oracle and Megan Watterson, and it was judgment. And we've talked a lot about judgment today and how we are all judged or doing or not doing what other people think that we should. And we judge, I think our harshest judge is us. We judge ourselves. And this card judgment I drew, and it talked about the whole point of being here is to be human. We are expressing through a human body. And to be human, you're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You can't be human and not make mistakes, but you don't have to judge yourself because of it. What you do is say, well, this is what happened, and what can I do to see that is healed within me, that I'm not projecting onto others a judgment that I have on myself. And so that really is a big part of my spiritual practice. And I work with crystals every day. I work with crystals. And I have used this one. This one is called Mystic Merlin.
Put it in
And
front of your chest, honey, because we can't see them.
oh,
There you
okay.
go.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a heart shape, and the crystal is Mystic Merlin. And its technical name is, let's see where I put that down, Indigo Gabbro. And it is
How do you say the second word?
Gabbro. Indigo Gabbro.
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 Okay.
And it is a combination of minerals. And it is also called Mystic Merlin. And I like that. And this is what I use to symbolize the Philosopher's Stone. Now, the Philosopher's Stone lives in our heart when we have achieved it. And so this is a really great piece for me to work with when I'm, because the Philosopher's Stone is the goal of alchemy. And so I work with that. I also work with sprays. Generally, my sprays come from Amanda Ellis, her company. I enjoy having those. I think that's pretty much daily what I do. Yeah. And then on the full moon and the new moon, I do collage. Used to be called a vision board, but it reflects more of the energy and how the energies are, how I'm feeling them, how I'm feeling the energies involved in each new and full moon.
Those are beautiful practices, Maureen.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that wind song.
Mhm.
So for myself, in terms of my spiritual practice, you know, when we tapped in before the show started and asked, what does the divine feminine want us to share about the spiritual practice? What clearly came to me that needed to be shared through this discussion, and I think this is a good place for it, is that spiritual practices evolve. We are evolving beings. And our spiritual practices in our daily life evolve also to support where we are in our own evolution. And so, I used to be a great one for spending hours doing japa malas. I had different malas that were charged with different mantras, and I would spend all kinds of time doing that. That's where I was at that time. I did what they call, bhajans, devotional singing, where I would put on the bhajans and I would just sing along, just like, people go to church and they sing with the choir, right? It's a very devotional kind of a practice. So my practice has evolved over numerous, by now, decades. And where I am now in my spiritual practice shifted in the August retreat that we did when the Capricorn sovereignty goddess went through the metamorphic stage and was transmuted into the Leo divine royalty goddess. And Sophia made it very clear to me, the time of channeling is done. Now you have to drop into the Christ heart and you have to start receiving your own inner guidance, your own wisdom. So that became, and I still do it, my practice, dropping in, connecting, and really, and when I say connecting, because sometimes people don't know what that word is. What do you mean connect? What do you do to connect? It could be different for everybody, but for me, because I have such strong Cancerian energies, for me, I have to feel. I have to feel the connection. For a long time, I talked about how when my heart, like I connect in my heart, it feels like the scripture, my cup runneth over, because I would get this like gush of feeling that literally felt like a cup running over. That was one way that I was describing it. So I have to feel that connection. And when I feel the connection and then start to listen, start to ask and listen, even if I am going to work with the Mary Magdalene Oracle that Winsong mentioned, or even Megan's other oracle, the Divine Feminine Oracle, I connect first so that I know that what I'm receiving through that oracle card is what I'm intended to have. So connecting in my Christ heart on a daily basis, and oftentimes numerous times throughout the day, is a big part of my daily spiritual practice. In the Muslim tradition, they go to prayer 5 times a day. And I talked about in my Guru Purnima video how there's a difference between spiritual discipline, right? That's like, and that spiritual discipline is not a task-driven, cracking the whip kind of a thing, right? So there are Muslims that go to the mosque 5 times a day because the call to prayer comes out and it's a task. They go because that's what is expected of them. And then there are Muslims that use it as a discipline to go into the mosque and connect with their inner divinity. This is the difference. And this is how spiritual discipline and spiritual practice work together. So for me, it is the feeling part. And what's become another daily practice for me is I go out onto the balcony in the morning, because I already told you I'm getting up early, 5 o'clock, to get out to the ranch to scoop paddocks. And I take my coffee out there and I wait for the sun to come up. And I start actually having a connection, a communion with the light of the sun. And just like Sophia Regina said, gratitude. And I talk to the sun and I'm like, thank you. Thank you for your radiance. Thank you for infusing every cell of my body that is its own little solar plant with your light code frequencies, and I just have this conversation of gratitude where I am connecting with the sun, and I will sit there consciously and just allow myself to feel the warmth of the sun on my skin and just revel in that feeling. And so I also use the I am statements throughout the day. And again, between spiritual discipline and spiritual practice, saying I am love, I am love, I am love, I am love, it gets you nowhere. It's like digging a hole, right? But dropping into your Christ heart and feeling I am love, and feeling it and knowing that it's true, that it's not just something you're repeating, is powerful. And what happened to me as I was consciously using my I am statements from this place of being tapped in and feeling them, what happened is at one point, I simply said, I am, before I could say the rest of it. And all of a sudden I became aware that there was like a flicker. Like there was a recognition that the power of I am, which is the name of your divine self, acknowledged me when I said that. It was unbelievable. And then whatever you say after that is what you're consciously creating for your reality. And so at one point, I talked about this in one of my videos. I use I am statements that I'm inspired in the moment to say. And I was in my Christ heart. I had asked some other question. And then all of a sudden, I started hearing, I am love. Well, I use that one a lot. Okay. I am being love. Okay. That was a new one that had come to me. And then I heard, I am the beloved. Oh my God, you could have knocked me over with a feather. Because up until that point, there was still this separation consciousness where the beloved was other. Even though I was connecting with the beloved within me, it was still other. And it was that shift where I heard, I am the beloved, that, whoa, we are connected. We are in sacred union, and it changed everything. So those are my current daily practices, dropping in numerous times during the day into my Christ heart, connecting with my divine self, receiving the guidance and the inspiration for the I am statements that are very potent and powerful, and connecting every morning consciously with the sun. I mean, all life on this planet could not exist if it weren't for the light of the sun. And that gratitude piece that Sophia Regina spoke to. Absolutely a huge part of it. And the silence piece that both Sophia Regina and Karuna Devi spoke to. You have to create the space for the stillness. You have to. And so for me, I take off my Fitbit. I put my phone on airplane mode, and I allow myself to have a space where I know something external is not going to interrupt the silence. Because if you're not doing your spiritual practice in the silence, you're not going to get the deepest benefit of it. At least that's my experience. So at this point, before we say goodbye, if you could all unmute yourself, any final words on this topic of spiritual practice that we've discussed today, or any ahas that have come up while we've been having the conversation that you'd like to give a voice to?
I think it's been a great conversation. Really appreciated hearing everyone's practice and what it meant to them. And so, yeah, I just thank you, ladies. Thank you.
I have absolute deep gratitude that all of you were able to come together and share your wisdom in this conversation. It took a while to get here, but it was well worth the wait
Yes.
for
Oh,
all
God,
of us to be able to show up.
Yes, definitely.
There was Windsong was talking about Marianne Williamson, and she was talking about our deepest fear. That quote, and she you're right. It is about it is our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful.
Mm.
It is our light. And oh, what's the last sentence? Damn it. We fear that we are powerful beyond measure. And that's true. But isn't that how we were all raised?
Yeah.
And we're breaking those barriers.
Yeah, definitely.
We're breaking those barriers. And as we heal within our own selves, this is something that I've known, and I'm sure you all know this as well. But when we heal something within us, we heal 7 generations forward and 7 generations back. That number 7 is a powerful number. And, I like what you were saying, Sophia, about you're right with my little 5x55 practice that I do, but I do drop in.
Oh, I'm sure you do, but that was in no way a criticism.
No, I know it wasn't. I'm just saying, I mean, I do, because I'm like, I feel this. And that's where the growth comes from. As I said, I'm becoming very comfortable with who I am. I don't need to apologize.
That's great.
I am. I'm that person.
That's
that
fantastic.
would be me.
Winsong, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yes. I also want to thank everybody for being here and for sharing their beautiful spiritual gifts and practices. The thing that I would like to say is that look for magic. Look for the magic in the world. There is magic, and it's not supernatural. It's natural. It is just there. And we have been programmed to overlook it by people's definition of what is magic. It's something that doesn't exist, maybe, for one thing, or it is something we can't see, but is something we can see and feel, and it's real. Just observe nature. You'll see it, you'll feel it.
That's true. And honestly, as an addendum to my previous statements, I would say that that's another part of my spiritual practice. Throughout the day, I am aware of how nature is interacting with me and communicating with me. And it is absolutely magical. I feel like, a little girl every time that happens, like a child.
Absolutely.
I was able to pull that quote up.
Okay.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
Yeah.
I got chills about that one again. The whole body. And it's not that cold in the house. At 81 degrees, it's not that cold. Oh my gosh. Thank you all so much. I really was glad I was able to make this today. This was
Yeah.
so uplifting for me.
Good.
Yeah, it's like
Good.
refreshing.
Good.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much. And if you want to stay on while I go to the closing slide, please do. And if you need to leave because you have other obligations, that's fine too. But let me just head over to my closing slide. So for all of you that have stayed with us through this divine feminine leadership conversation on spiritual practice, I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. This is the link to the channel, the Roseville Mystery School. Please give the video a thumbs up because it's unbelievable how exponentially by clicking on the thumbs up, it pushes this out to other people to view this content. And my deep hope and prayer is that many, 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 many people will get to see this conversation, and maybe it will spark that little awakening for them to step on the spiritual path for themselves. If my work is at all meaningful for you and you'd like to support my work, I invite you to buy me a cup of coffee. It's just a really small donation, whatever you're inspired to. This link will be in the description box below. And I do want to say thank you to Sophia Regina for being my very first person to buy me a cup of coffee. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now that the
you're
well
welcome.
is primed, I hope that more and more people will be buying me coffee to enjoy so that I can sit out there with the sun and commune with the sun. So until our next Divine
Absolutely.
Feminine Leadership conversation, I am sending you my love, heart to heart, and I look forward to seeing you in our next gathering. Bye-bye.